meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for
Yeah,
taking a minute out for the show. I appreciate it.
my pleasure.
S-
Yeah.
So before we get into A Window Through Time, which I've already played on my show, I've really enjoyed the album. I want to know, 4 years ago we were trying to figure out what this pandemic was going to do, how it was going to all shake out. Now that we're in this kind of quote unquote post-pandemic era, how did you get through it and how did it change you?
Yeah. Well, actually, for me, it was interesting because I had actually just moved as well, right prior to. So for me, I ended up funneling my creative efforts into this project.
Okay.
We actually did the first recording right about a little over 2 years ago.
Okay.
So I was fundraising, I was kind of just focusing on bringing this to fruition.
Okay.
Pulled the musicians out, we worked through COVID, um, focused on the mixing, the mastering, and all that. And so that was a little bit kind of how to make use of that
Yeah.
time. Um,
So so what was kind of the artistic vision of this album? What was your vision of it?
so this project was really a deeply personal project for
Yeah.
me. Some of the pieces, there was a lot of new material, there was some older material that I wanted to bring to sort of its full realization. Um, music is abstract, and as an artist, we really want the music to touch people and take people wherever it takes them. So it's not that but there's a particular meaning and gestalt and um, that the pieces have and the way they fit together that personally for me sort of even continues to reveal itself over time. Um, it has a lot personally for me to do with things like, internal states and how we navigate our lives and um it's but again the impulse is as an artist is to follow where the muse takes you,
Yeah,
to
for sure.
bring it to its you know deepest realization and then let it go wherever it goes and touch people in whatever ways it does. um when we perform it, um I've been getting feedback because I sometimes share a little about the stories of the origins of an individual piece, and I sometimes get feedback that people really appreciate some of that pulls them into the music. Um, yeah, so it's there was multiple meanings in the
Okay.
project as well.
Yeah.
Well, one of them, for example, was I've worked with Paul McCandless. Um, you know, had the great joy and honor of working with him. I think it's 15, 16 years now. And as we were entering into this, and I had worked primarily with percussionists before for quite a while, and I realized this work really needed drum set. It just required it, and to take it in a new direction. And we were talking, and it came up that Mark Walker would just do a phenomenal job. And so Mark Walker had played with Paul for about 20 years in Oregon after Trilak Gurtu, after that period. So, and he lives in Boston. He teaches at Berklee College of Music. He's touring like crazy. But part of the impulse was also the joy of bringing Paul and Mark together in the studio. So there was a lot of things at play and how that came about, um and you start every project, it's like a journey, and the impulse takes you into the journey, and then the journey unfolds.
Yeah.
um and so the logistics of that, bringing Mark out or catching him when he was touring in the Bay Area, and the whole way that unfolded was really beautiful.
So how did this music journey begin for you? How did you get into the music and more specifically jazz?
Yeah. So depends on how far back you want to wind, but I grew up in a really musical household. My dad was a cantor, had a really, beautiful voice. We had a piano. I had three brothers. All of us either played piano or guitar, and just loved music. The piano was like home for me. Um, and I kind of was, a little bit of a musical omnivore in a way. I, listened to all kinds of music, whatever I was exposed to, early on, you know, um, jazz, no, more rock, various things, some classical. And then I got turned on to there was kind of when I hit college, I knew music was my passion for a long time. And I was studying piano, I was, studying different kinds. When I got into college, it was like there was three main strands. You know, there was the classical strands. I was really impacted by Debussy, by the Impressionists, by Satie, by Bartok, Steve Reich, with all the odd meter. Um, all of that was really intriguing to me. I also had sort of a deep musicological bent, you know,
Yeah.
um, and rhythms, kind of how different cultures see the world and express that through their music and through their rhythms. Um, I got very intrigued by all the melodic percussive instruments. So, I played in a gamelan, I played in a Shona marimba band. I picked up vibes, I picked up marimba. Um, I kind of was just drinking from all the different streams that were intriguing to me. And then, I started, my exposure to like Miles and sketches of Spain and the orchestrations, Gil Evans and, you know, um, Herbie Hancock, Maiden Voyage, all those things just started to just feed me, and intrigue me. So, my own evolution with this particular direction that I've been calling Indo-Latin jazz, which has been, I guess, about the past 16 years or so, um, was sort of informed by all of that.
Yeah.
You know, um, it fundamentally, the driver is the muse.
Yeah.
Um, and the well that I draw from, there are sources of inspiration, so the musical cultures, Brazil, Cuba, India, and Spain are kind of have been primary for me.
Yeah.
And then contemporary jazz. And so it's the muse kind of directs the cauldron,
Yeah.
or those things are all in the cauldron. And then there's this process, as a composer, the muse speaks and you listen and pull it together. And then I've been blessed, to work with just wonderful artists on the project. Paul McCandless, of course, Mark Walker on drums, who is just, an insanely talented drummer. And everyone on the project, in addition to being incredible musicians, are also just incredibly great people.
Yeah,
It's the best of all worlds.
for sure.
Matthew Montfort on scallop fretboard guitar. And that adds so much to the mix, for people who don't know, it's if you take a guitar and you scoop out between the frets, that's the scalloped, and that allows him in the sound to get these exquisite bends, so he's really studied that deeply and he's a real pioneer of that instrument. So that lends to the unique nature of the sound. And then actually, with the different pieces, there were three bass players total on the project: Gary Brown, um, and Sasha Jacobson and Cash Killian, and some on percussion, Danny Feldman, who is actually touring, who tours with Mark, with Arturo Sandoval,
Yeah.
and really adds a lot to the tracks he's on, Michelle Gorlitz and Ian Dogle. So this whole collective. Um, but as a composer, you have the piece, bring together the arrangement, but then, the alchemical process happens with the individual artists. And, all of them have been great to work with.
So, what was the first live jazz show you saw that blew you away?
Oh, um, oh my God, McCoy Tyner,
Yeah.
my God, you know, and seeing him over the years, one of the most amazing shows in a different way with him was I saw at Yoshi's him, Pharoah Sanders, um, Charma Moffat, Eric Harland, and Ravi Coltrane.
Wow.
And it was the first session it was like a week residency at Yoshi's. And it was the first time that Ravi was basically stepping into his father's shoes with
Wow.
the old guard. And man, there was so much love on that stage.
I bet. I bet. That's wonderful. So, you've been doing this for a little while. What do you love the best about being a professional musician?
Um, I love the creativity. Mm, I love the whole process of realizing the pieces. And I love the working with a band. I love that alchemical process of taking pieces, um, like like the compositions are like the bones, and when you get together and bring it to life, it's magic and it's joy. And I love the rehearsals, I love the process of working together. um I love bringing it out live. It's interesting because being a band leader and a composer, like there's a gazillion hats, you know? It's kind of like you have one hat and you kind of flip it around. Um, so I would say that one of the aspects that gives me the most joy though is working with the musicians.
Yeah,
Um, and it's like we get to take these journeys together
yeah,
and everybody's on board.
yeah.
That gives me a lot of joy.
So why do you love jazz?
I love jazz because it's about freedom. It's about um yeah, it's about freedom.
Yeah. S-
And yeah.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, fans, but you run the show. What's your
Yeah.
perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Interesting question.
Yeah,
I well, I'm a persevering artist.
yeah,
Everybody has their individual paths, and some have more straight trajectories. I'm sort of a poster child for the windy path. But yeah, I would say I'm on board. I read something today that Chick Corea said about our job as artists being the antidote to war and all the darker sides out there. So for me as an artist, that's what it's about,
yeah,
you know, um, genres and all that aside, you know, it's about creating music is vibration. And I feel our role is to bring a higher vibration.
yeah,
And it's about love fundamentally.
yeah.
And that's what I'm dedicated to.
So Window Through Time is the newest album. If anyone wants to pick this up in the proper version, physical or downloaded, or see you live, how can they do that?
Mhm.
Where's the best place to go?
Yeah, for getting the album, best place is Bandcamp, but we're streaming on all the platforms. So you can find me that way. But do come to mariahparkermusic.com and so you can sign up to be on my mailing list, which would be great. I keep people posted of things. So those are the best ways, but we're streaming everywhere. As of tomorrow, today we just made the most ads chart on Jazz Week.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it's wonderful. Like I said, I played it on my show. It's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much. Great
Yeah,
to be with you.
absolutely.